Hi, this is Laura Dodson, and this is my data protocol. So, for my data protocol sheet, I just created a basic data protocol, being in the library and not dealing too much with assessment anymore. I wanted to make something general that could be used in the building with any type of data that was inputted in, so that it could just be a more general data protocol that could be used in several areas. So the first step would be the data focus point. So for this step, you're going to analyze and provide the data that you decide on for the specific data points that you want to focus on. So they would make a general decision as to which specific data they want to focus on, or which specific points they want to focus on. For instance, this may be where they see the most need, or the biggest drop or decrease in maybe attendance, or a drop or decrease in curriculum. So looking at one specific point, and this is where they would list that part. Number 2 is to go in and list the relevant data and observations. So this would include any assessment data, teacher surveys, discipline data, academic or curriculum data. This is where you would look at what specific information you want to look at while focusing on this specific data point. Next, you would interpret data. So for this, what does this data suggest to you? What are you seeing? Are there trends? Is there anything that might be causing these trends or causing this data to look in a certain way? This is where you're going to analyze and interpret the data that you're looking at. Number 4 is where you're going to look for implications. So in number 3, you've analyzed the data and you found trends or things that might need to be looked at further. In number 4, you're going to take those things and decide what is the impact to your instructional practices or your strategies. What implications does this data create for future practices and strategies? And that's where you would list that information. In number 5, this is where you're going to create your framework for how to initiate changes and start improvement plans. This is when you're going to come up with that plan. How does that look? What things are you going to put in place to initiate those changes? How are you going to change that data? How are you going to increase academic proficiency? How are you going to get to that point? And this is where you would create that. The last thing is, how are you going to track that growth? What are you going to look at? Which data points are going to be monitored? How are you going to progress monitor that? How are you going to look at that growth? And finally, then you would track the growth. You would add the growth information to the data protocol. So next, my flowchart for my data protocol looks like this. Starting with your point of focus, then you go into your relevant data and observations, coming down to interpret your data. You're going to identify those implications, and finally, you're going to build that framework. Lastly, you're going to track the growth. So that is my data protocol. Thanks.